Have you ever wondered, what is money? Who truly controls it? And where is it heading? I certainly have. But it wasn't until I finished reading Money in the 21st Century that I began to grasp the bigger story behind every bill, transaction, and financial tool we use today. Hi everyone, welcome back to LeanReads, the channel where we share knowledge and support holistic personal growth through great books. Today, we are going to explore the book Money in the 21st Century by Richard Holden. This book published in 2024 explores how advancements in technology are transforming the nature and function of money, from the rise of digital currencies and mobile payments to the age of ultra-low interest rates. The book breaks down how these forces are reshaping financial systems and global economic dynamics. Richard Holden is a professor of economics at the University of New South Wales and serves as the president of the Academy of the Social Sciences in Australia. He earned his PhD in economics from Harvard University and has taught at the University of Chicago and Met. His notable works include Australia's Pandemic Exceptionalism and the Textbook Principles of Economics. Money, once considered a constant in our lives, is undergoing a quiet but profound transformation. It's no longer just paper or digits on an ATM screen. Now it lives inside our smartphones, powered by algorithms, moving through systems far removed from traditional banking, driven by technology, new policies, and evolving global consumer behavior. The very foundation of money is being rewritten. This shift didn't happen overnight. It is the outcome of a series of structural disruptions, many of which trace back to the pivotal year of 2008. Events that year quietly laid the groundwork for a future where control over money and its circulation is up for grabs. Today, across countries and among individuals, money is no longer the straightforward concept it once was. The book identifies three transformative trends that are redefining money: how it's created, who controls it, and how we use it in our daily lives. Through these forces, we see not only a change in currency, but in the global economic landscape itself. The year 2008 marked a turning point in how we perceive and use money. Three seemingly unrelated phenomena occurred simultaneously, yet together they triggered a dramatic shift. Interest rates in developed economies plummeted to near-zero levels. Smartphones became a daily essential for billions of people. And then, something entirely new appeared: Bitcoin, the world's first digital currency. These weren't isolated events. They converged to fundamentally change how money is created, moved, and governed. At first, the widespread lowering of interest rates in 2008 seemed like a temporary measure to stabilize our financial system in crisis. Central banks in the US, Europe, Japan, and elsewhere slashed borrowing costs in hopes of reviving growth. But surprisingly, even after the global economy began to recover, rates remained near zero and stayed that way for years. This persistence wasn't just policy. It reflected deeper shifts in the global economy. Today's dominant companies, especially in tech, don't need massive capital to scale, unlike the industrial giants of the past. At the same time, the world is awash in orphan savings, the result of aging populations and growing inequality. When there's too much money and too few productive investments, low interest rates become the norm. Cheap money, once temporary, turned into a default state. Around the same time, mobile phones, once merely communication tools, became indispensable financial devices. The iPhone's launch in 2007 sparked a global smartphone revolution. Whether at an African market or a European supermarket, people began using mobile apps to pay, transfer, and manage money. Convenience and mobility made physical bank branches feel obsolete. A phone in your palm could now do what a teller once did. While these financial shifts played out quietly, Bitcoin emerged with a radical message, built on blockchain technology, a decentralized public ledger. Bitcoin introduced a new idea that money could exist and function without government or central bank control. What began as an experiment in a niche community opened the door to thousands of other digital currencies, creating a parallel financial universe, one with real growth potential and serious attention from regulators worldwide. These three forces, cheap money, mobile money, and digital currencies, came together to spark a monetary transformation never seen before. It was also the moment when cash began its gradual retreat from everyday life. In 2010, about 40% of people in Sweden still used cash for their most recent purchase. But just 10 years later, that figure had dropped to 9%, a clear sign of a major shift in how modern economies handle payments. And Sweden isn't alone. Across the developed world, countries are seeing a similar trend. Cash is rapidly being replaced by faster, safer, and more traceable digital payment methods. Technology is the key driver of this change. With the rise of virtual bank cards, smartphones, and wearable devices, payments today take just seconds, no wallet or ATM required. In countries like Sweden and Australia, where real-time payment infrastructure is robust, people have switched to digital methods with little resistance. A cashless future that once seemed far-fetched is now becoming a reality. But not everyone is keeping up. Many older adults, lower-income individuals, and people in remote areas still rely on cash. Part of the reason is limited access to digital tools. Another is habit or deep mistrust of new systems. Rajan, former governor of the Reserve Bank of India, warned that moving too quickly away from cash could harm the most vulnerable. He pointed to India's surprise 2016 demonetization, which caused widespread disruption, especially for the poor. That's why a well-planned transition is essential. In Australia, where digital infrastructure is advanced, the government could roll out a 3-year phased plan to gradually reduce cash usage. But rushing the process without preparation can lead to serious problems, even in advanced economies where digital payments are the norm. Cash still holds symbolic and practical value for some. It represents privacy, spending control, and a familiar convenience. Still, with technology advancing and the benefits of digital payments becoming clearer, cash's role continues to shrink. And that raises a big question. If cash disappears completely, what will replace it? And who will control this new form of money? In remote rural regions of Kenya or certain areas of Afghanistan, the mobile phone is quietly driving a revolution. Without the need for widespread banking networks, large branch offices, or complicated procedures, the mobile phone has become a trusted tool for people to manage their personal finances. While traditional banks have spent decades trying to reach the unbanked population, mobile money systems have quickly become essential in everyday life. It is not just a new way to send money or make payments. It is redefining how people can participate in a modern economy, no matter where they live. It all began with the convergence of two technologies, mobile phones and digital finance. At first, this was simply a matter of convenience for users in developed countries. But as it spread to developing nations, it became a powerful catalyst for financial inclusion. Growing evidence shows that this shift is making a real difference. Trials in Kenya show mobile money helps reduce poverty, especially for women. In Afghanistan, paying police salaries via mobile phones not only helped curb corruption, but also increased productivity. In this way, technology doesn't just change consumer behavior, it reshapes social behavior. 2. This transformation also forces us to rethink the very nature of money. For a long time, we understood money as something issued by central banks, controlled by governments through taxation, and distributed by commercial banks through systems of saving and lending. But today, digital platforms are increasingly taking on these roles, from transferring money and recording transactions to storing value. While monetary policies like inflation control and interest rate adjustments still matter, their impact is now more likely to be felt through smartphones than across a counter at a bank branch. In advanced economies, technology has made payments faster and more secure. But in places where traditional banks have never served people adequately, the mobile phone has become the key to unlocking financial access when your bank lives in your pocket. Participating in economic life becomes easier than ever, and that is more than just a technological leap. It opens up new ways of thinking about governance, infrastructure, and what economic growth truly means. In a small town in the U.S. state of New Hampshire, cryptocurrency has stepped out of the digital world and into everyday life. Residents here can buy frozen yogurt using Bitcoin, and they regularly gather to discuss the value and potential of different cryptocurrencies. What once seemed like a niche hobby for tech enthusiasts has become part of a broader movement, one in which privately issued digital money is starting to play a significant role in the global financial system. The spark was lit in 2008, when an anonymous figure using the pseudonym Satoshi Nakamoto published a document online. That paper laid out a method for creating digital money without needing a central bank or government backing. From that idea, Bitcoin was born, the world's first cryptocurrency, paving the way for an entirely new class of assets. These assets are not controlled by the state, yet they have achieved a global exchange value in the trillions of dollars. The core innovation driving this shift is blockchain, a decentralized digital ledger system. Rather than relying on banks or any centralized authority, blockchain uses cryptography and consensus mechanisms to verify transactions. This means that even among complete strangers, trust can be established and exchanges can happen securely. As a result, Bitcoin and Ethereum aren't just tokens, they represent a new way of thinking about value and how it can be stored outside of the traditional banking system. The name most frequently mentioned after Satoshi is Vitalik Buterin, co-founder of Ethereum, a project he launched as a teenager. What makes Ethereum different is that it enables the creation of smart contracts, agreements executed through code, not lawyers or courts. This innovation opened the door to an entirely new world of applications, decentralized finance, DeFi, peer-to-peer trading platforms, and unique digital collectibles, all running on a unified blockchain ecosystem. These cryptocurrencies are gaining popularity through the power of network effects. The more people use them, the greater their value and influence. But with this rise comes a new dilemma. What happens when control over money shifts from governments to private individuals or organizations? This is the challenge governments now face. They must decide whether to tighten regulations, compete directly, or find ways to adapt to this new financial reality. One of the earliest responses has been the development of official state-backed digital currencies, so-called central bank digital currencies (CBDCs). A new phase in the history of money is beginning to take shape in the digital era, bringing with it fresh tensions, complex challenges, and remarkable opportunities. In 2019, when Facebook announced its plan to launch a global digital currency, the reaction from policymakers, especially in Washington, was swift and intense. Originally called Libra, later renamed Diem, the project raised widespread concerns. If a tech platform with billions of users could issue its own currency, it wouldn't just threaten financial stability. It would challenge the very authority of regulators and the global economic and political order. U.S. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen was one of its strongest critics. Without government support, particularly from the U.S., the project was eventually scrapped. But the message it delivered was loud and clear. Powerful private companies are no longer just toying with alternatives to government-issued money. They're preparing to launch them seriously. Amid the rapid rise of cryptocurrencies and privately issued digital currencies, central banks around the world have started to respond. They are accelerating efforts to develop their own digital versions of national currencies. known as central bank digital currencies (CBDCs), or more informally, govcoins. Unlike speculative assets or digital tokens created by tech startups, govcoins are official forms of money, digitized, issued, and regulated by central banks. They retain the key features of state-backed currencies: stability, accountability, and legal clarity, while adapting to a world where money exists increasingly as code rather than paper. Still, designing a functional govcoin is no simple task. It must be user-friendly, fast, and secure, while also safeguarding privacy and integrating with existing financial infrastructure. One proposal for the U.S., nicknamed FedCoin, imagines a digital dollar bill on a centralized ledger controlled by the Federal Reserve. And like Bitcoin, which relies on energy-intensive blockchain mining, FedCoin could operate more efficiently, support electronic payments, enable smart contracts, and provide tools to assist government agencies in enforcing laws and collecting taxes. The shift toward government-issued digital currencies could also mean the gradual phasing out of physical cash. While this presents many opportunities, it also raises concerns about privacy, the evolving role of commercial banks, and the extent of government oversight over individuals' spending behavior. In China, the digital yuan has already been rolled out to millions of users, a clear signal that the global govcoin race is heating up as more countries join the race. The global monetary order is starting to shift. The lines between private and state-issued money are being redrawn, and the next big competition may play out on an international scale. For decades, the US dollar has held a central role in the global financial system. It has served not only as the primary reserve currency for central banks, but also as the standard unit of account or international trade. This dominance has long underpinned the United States' global economic and political influence. But now, amid the accelerating rise of digital currencies, that position is facing serious challenges. One of the most significant changes is coming from China. The world's second-largest economy has aggressively rolled out its digital yuan to hundreds of millions of people. While the official goal is to modernize its domestic payment system, China is also quietly advancing a broader vision for global finance. A state-controlled digital currency can operate over independent networks, bypassing Western financial infrastructure like SWIFT and the U.S. banking system. This has the potential to reduce the international reliance on the dollar and to blunt the effects of U.S.-led economic sanctions. What may appear to be a technical shift is, in fact, reshaping the balance of power among global superpowers. Meanwhile, the United States has been slower to act. While the Federal Reserve has conducted early-stage research into the possibility of a digital dollar, tangible progress has been held back by political division and institutional inertia. As America hesitates, other nations and major tech companies have seized the opportunity to build new payment infrastructure. Once these systems become deeply embedded in daily life, replacing them becomes incredibly difficult. In global finance, the first movers tend to gain lasting advantages, regardless of their original intentions. At the same time, the private sector is beginning to exert serious pressure. Imagine if a company with the scale and user base of Amazon or Apple launched a widely adopted digital currency. Its influence could rival, or even surpass, that of national governments. In such a scenario, the United States could find itself not only losing international clout, but also losing control over critical economic tools, particularly in fiscal and monetary policy implementation. The transition to a digital money era is unfolding rapidly. Governments and tech giants alike are now engaged in a race to define the new standards for the future of currency. But building the infrastructure is only the first step. The real challenge lies in whether these systems can withstand or adapt to long-standing economic pressures such as asset bubbles, mounting public debt, and the limits of public financial resources. In the early 1980s, the United States faced interest rates exceeding 15%, but 40 years later, The financial landscape has been completely transformed. Interest rates remained extremely low for over a decade. Despite aggressive government spending and repeated large-scale interventions by central banks, this shift is more than just a technical adjustment. It signals a profound restructuring of the global economy, where many long-standing financial principles are now being seriously challenged. Today's low interest rates reflect the lasting impact of fundamental changes in the global economic structure. Modern tech giants like Google and Facebook thrive on software and data. They don't require the massive investments in factories and equipment the older industrial models did. At the same time, the world has seen a surge in savings. In developed countries, populations are aging, and growing inequality has concentrated wealth in the hands of a small, affluent group. These individuals tend to save more and spend less. Together, these forces, technological transformation and rising global savings, have driven down borrowing costs and significantly reduced the space in which central banks can maneuver monetary policy. In this environment, economies become more vulnerable to asset bubbles. Cheap credit makes borrowing easy, but with fewer productive investment opportunities, capital flows increasingly into real estate, stock markets, and even speculative assets like cryptocurrencies. The 2008 financial crisis showed that these risks are real, yet speculative asset models remain a hotbed of activity today. Although governments can respond with policy tools, the gap between vast pools of savings and limited real investment demand remains an unresolved problem. Some observers argue that when borrowing is cheap, governments can continue to expand spending without worrying about public debt, inflation, or even printing more money when needed. However, history offers cautionary tales, from post-World War I Germany to modern-day Venezuela, that ignoring inflationary pressures can lead to devastating consequences. Even as the financial system shifts toward digital platforms, basic principles like fiscal discipline and monetary stability remain essential. While the world focuses on technological innovation and capitalizing on cheap money, the critical mission of this new era will be to build a more sustainable and equitable financial order without repeating the mistakes that have left deep marks on history. Money is no longer simply a government-issued medium of exchange. It is rapidly evolving, becoming easier to borrow, more prevalent in digital form, and increasingly shaped by technology companies and global competition. In this shifting landscape, governments, central banks, and private platforms are entering a race to define the future of money. These changes don't just affect how we use money, they are rewriting the rules of economic power and reshaping how society interacts with modern finance. Recognizing these transformations isn't just about adapting to a world of constantly evolving finance, it is also a chance to help shape the monetary systems of tomorrow. Systems that, depending on how we act today, could become more inclusive, more efficient, and more flexible. As someone interested in both economics and technology, I came to money in the 21st century driven by curiosity, and left it feeling both excited and somewhat overwhelmed. This book doesn't just deliver knowledge. It challenges you to rethink the role of money in our modern lives, and more importantly, to ask who really controls the money we use every day. What impressed me most was how the book peeled back the layers of meaning behind events we thought we already understood. For example, the prolonged period of low interest rates isn't just a temporary policy measure. It reflects deeper structural changes in the global economy, where tech giants dominate without needing massive capital investment, or how the mobile phone has become a bank in your pocket for billions around the world, especially in places traditional banking has never reached. The book doesn't shy away from tough questions, like, if digital money becomes dominant, will control shift from governments to tech corporations? If the US dollar loses its dominance, what happens to the global financial order? The chapters on GovCoins, state-issued digital currencies, reveal a quiet but fierce race between governments and the private sector to reclaim influence in the financial world. Reading this book feels like watching a documentary told in everyday language. While also attending a crash course in modern finance, the author doesn't try to preach or push an agenda, instead offering sharp, balanced, and deeply insightful analysis. By the end, I realized money is no longer just what we carry in our wallets. It's an ecosystem that surrounds every economic, social, and political behavior in the digital age. And when the nature of money changes, all the old rules are being rewritten too. Money in the 21st century isn't just informative, it forces you to think. There's nothing more familiar than money, yet nothing that's changing more rapidly. If you don't understand how money is evolving, you won't understand where the world is headed. I rarely use the term must-read, but in this case, I truly believe that anyone living in the digital age, from everyday consumers to investors, researchers, and policymakers, should read this book. So that brings us to the end of this condensed exploration. I hope it's been helpful to you. If you're interested in similar books, feel free to leave a review and share your recommendations with us. You can also consider purchasing the book to get the full experience and support the author. I'll include a link in the description below for easy access. Thank you. And if you've enjoyed this channel, don't forget to like, share, and turn on notifications for more content. Wishing you a great day.